Akai, the leader in professional audio technology, brings you the ultimate in creative freedom. Presenting the Akai S900 digital sampler. For the next hour, Tim Tobias, accomplished keyboardist, session musician, and consultant for Akai, will guide you through a step-by-step practical demonstration on how to operate the Akai S900 with skill and confidence. Akai, creative at heart, pushing technology forward.
Oh, hi, I'm Tim Tobias, and I'm going to give you a hand learning the Akai S900 digital sampler. It's an incredibly powerful and versatile musical instrument, but it's surprisingly easy to use. The great thing about the sampler is, any sound you can imagine, you have the power to capture and play musically. No more synthesizing of approximate facsimiles. The real thing is in your grasp. Well, it's time to get down to the studio and check it out. Whoa.
Go.
Really? Watch it. Yeah, nice smooth right. Last stop, my Akai studio. And there it is, the Akai S900. Come on, let's get into it. First of all, let me explain to you what digital sampling is. It is a process by which we can record or sample any sound or audio waveform, convert it into digital information, store it, and then play it back as musical notes on a MIDI keyboard, MIDI guitar, or other MIDI-able instrument. We can also use the control features of the unit to alter or modify a sampled sound, or combine it with other sampled sounds to create new sounds. Anything you hear, you can sample with the S900. Now let's get going. Incidentally, I'll be using a little video razzmatazz to clearly illustrate what I'm saying. Also, you may find the written manual helpful in some areas. Okay, first of all, let's plug it in. Connect a MIDI cable from your master keyboard output, over here, to the S900 MIDI input. Then connect a guitar cord from the mix output of the S900 to the line input of your mixer amplifier speaker setup. Turn on the unit, check your volume. Now take the 3.5-inch piano disc that is included with your unit and insert it into the disk drive of the S900. Next, push the button on the front panel that says disk. The readout will say, clear memory and load entire disk. Disk 100%, memory 0. This tells you that there is no data loaded in the machine. Disk 100% tells you that the entire disk is full. The real secret in using this machine is to read the command options in the little screen and tell the unit what task you want it to perform by using the magic cursor arrow, the control knob, and the keypad. So if you want to clear the memory of the machine and load the entire disk, just push the button that says End or Enter. The Enter button is on the bottom row, fourth button over. Let's push it and see what happens. The light on the disk drive will go on, and the readout will now tell you what samples it is loading. After it has finished loading the disk, the light on the disk drive will go out. By the way, never take the disk out while this red light is on, or you can screw up your disk and/or your disk drive. Okay, now the disk light on the front panel will start blinking. We want to play the program, so push the button marked Play. The readout will say, Programs, scroll with knob. Select single key, so do what the machine says. Reach up and turn the control knob, and you will see number 1, piano A, number 2, piano B, and number 3, honky tonk scroll by. So if you want to make your program selection, simply push 1, 2, or 3. The number 1 in front of piano A should already be blinking, so let's start with it. Play your master keyboard and you should be hearing the sound of a grand piano. Push number 2. The readout should shift and the number 2 in front of piano B will start blinking. This piano should sound a little darker than piano A. Now try honky tonk. Press 3. The readout will shift again and the number 3 will start blinking. This piano should sound noticeably detuned to give it a honky tonk effect. To remove the piano disc, simply push the button underneath the floppy disk drive and the disc will pop out. However, all the information is still in the machine, so you can still play the piano. Now, if that wasn't too difficult, let's take a look at the function controls. Right up here, of course, we have our power switch. And over here, we have our contrast control. There are 8 mode switches: play, record, edit sample, edit program, MIDI, utility, disk, and master tune. These switches allow you to perform different tasks or commands on the S900. A 10-key pad plus on-off switches let you enter numeric commands. 2 arrow cursor buttons for moving the magic arrow left to right and back. 2 page buttons for moving our menu of commands up and down through our different modes: record, edit sample, edit program, etc. A letter button that allows you to dial the alpha commands, A through Z. A space button that does just that, gives you some space between letters or numbers. The Ent or Enter button, which tells whatever command you select to begin. The PB or Playback button, which allows you to play samples back without the MIDI keyboard. Over here we have the knob which adjusts your record level. This is used in recording samples. Underneath it is the mic and line inputs. Next to it is the knob which adjusts your monitor level, so you can hear what you are sampling directly through the S900's microphone or line inputs. The output or volume control is over here on the far right. Underneath the volume control is the record playback trigger that allows you to trigger recording mode or playback mode with a foot switch. Last but not least is my favorite, the amazing control knob, which allows you to quickly and easily turn pages or scroll programs and dial the alphanumeric commands with incredible speed. These are all of the function controls, so if you're ready, we'll see what this baby can do. Let's get out the microphone and do some sampling. The easiest way to show you how to sample is with some very simple vocal samples. First, turn the record level knob all the way down. Then, plug your microphone into the input. Turn the microphone on. Turn the monitor knob up halfway. Then slowly turn up the record knob to about 9 o'clock. Now we should be able to hear ourselves talk through the monitor speaker. Push the function 1 button labeled record, and you will see page 1 of record mode in the readout. It says, name of sample to be recorded, tone. 1 note, you cannot dial pages in record mode. You have to use the page buttons. Okay, the first thing we have to do is to name the sample to be recorded. I also suggest you include the original pitch of the sample being recorded, C3, D3, F sharp 4, etc. So let's name the sample voice C1. Press letter, then use the control knob to dial in the letter V. Press the arrow cursor to move to the next space. Dial in O and press the arrow cursor again. Then dial in I. Repeat these functions and dial in C and E. Use the space button to eliminate any letters. Dial in number. and then C1. Okay, press enter or simply go to the next page. It says, name of program for monitoring, monitor. So repeat the functions in page 1. Okay, let's move up to page 3, sample type. This page gives you a choice of 3 ways to record your sample. It will automatically record in normal mode unless you choose to use the velocity crossfade, soft number 2 or loud number 3. This lets you play 2 different samples by hitting the same note at different velocity. Let's work with a normal sample type first and then come back and work with a velocity crossfade later. Press page, and this brings us to page 4, audio bandwidth. Audio bandwidth measures the frequency response of the sample, or how many pictures of the waveform we take a second. The higher the bandwidth, the clearer the resolution of the sample, and with better high frequency response. But remember, higher bandwidths take more memory too. The thing that's great about the S900 is that we can adjust the frequency response of each sample independently, from as low as 3,000 hertz to as high as 16,000 hertz. A lot of sampling time is done between 7,000 hertz and 12,000 hertz, so be sure to experiment with these lower bandwidths. Or you can sample it at a higher bandwidth, 12,000 hertz to 16,000 hertz, and then re-sample it at half bandwidth on page 9 in the Edit Sample section. For now, though, let's set the audio bandwidth all the way up for stun, 16,000 hertz, and move to page 5. This page sets the overall time of the sample from as low as 250 milliseconds, a quarter of a second, to as long as 63,110 milliseconds, or a little over 63 seconds. If we sample at 16,000 hertz, full bandwidth, we get almost 12 seconds of sampling time. But if we sample at 3,000 hertz, the lowest bandwidth, we can get 63 seconds of sampling time. If you choose too long a sample time, you can always truncate, cut off the beginning or the end of the sample, and discard before start or after the end on page 9 of the Edit Sample section. For now, though, let's dial in 3,000 milliseconds or 3 seconds. Press page and move to page 6. This section lets you assign your sample to a pitch or note on the keyboard. Since our sample is voice C1, let's assign it to C1. So simply dial up C1 or MIDI note number 36 with the control knob, or simply hit the C 2 octaves below middle C. Then move to page 7. This section lets you choose 3 different ways to trigger your sample recording. Number 1, any key. Means that you can start sampling when any key on the keypad is pushed. Number 2 lets you start sampling when you activate a foot switch plugged into the front of the unit. Number 3 lets you trigger the sampling when the audio signal is greater than the threshold level set by the control knob. Let's push number 3 and see what happens. The T you see is your trigger level, so adjust the threshold with the control knob and speak into the mic. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Now you can see a record level from left to right. If you need to adjust the record level, simply use the red record knob on the right. Once you have the correct level set, push the page button and go on to the next page. Now, as soon as the audio signal from the mic is greater than the threshold trigger, the S900 will immediately start recording. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we just recorded a sample. So move to page 8. Press enter and listen to our sample. 1, 2, 3. Now press C3 on your keyboard. 1, 2, 3. You should be hearing the same thing. Now, if you play up higher on the keyboard,
1, 2, 3.
the sample will get higher and faster. If you go lower, it will sound lower and slower.
1, 2, 3.
That's due to sampling technology, but very useful if you want to play music. Now that wasn't too bad.
One, two, three.
Let's go back and use the velocity crossfade. Remember, velocity crossfade is when you can assign two sounds to one key and determine which sound is heard by how hard you hit the key. In order to do this, we need to record a soft sample and a loud sample. Let's record the soft sample first. So let's go back to page 1 and name our sample Soft Loud. Push letter, dial in S, space, leave the O, F, now T, space, L, O, U, D. Then move to page 3 and choose our sample type. Let's choose soft, number 2. Now page through to audio bandwidth and dial in 16,000 hertz. Okay, go to the next page and set the recording time for 2 seconds. Let's go to the next page. Assign your sample to C3. Next, start with number 3, your audio level. Set your threshold and record your sample. Soft. Soft. Okay, let's go to the next page and listen. Soft. Okay, now let's go back and record the loud sample. Let's go back to the sample type page and press number 3 for loud sample. Now set your bandwidth. Bandwidth is set. The record time is set. And the sample point is set. So go directly to sampling trigger and record loud. Loud. Go to your next page and press enter and you will hear loud. Now play it on the keyboard and you will, if you strike middle C gently, you will hear soft. Soft. If you strike middle C harder, you will hear loud and soft. Loud. If you strike it at different velocities, you will hear both samples play simultaneously. There are lots of possibilities for this function. For instance, you can be playing strings and just hit a key harder and get brass over strings. The important thing with digital sampling is to use your imagination. Okay, if you have any questions about anything we've done so far, you might want to rewind the tape and review. If not, let's move ahead and do some sample editing. Okay, now that we've recorded some basic samples, there's a number of ways we can alter or edit them. So let's press the button marked Edit Sample and see what we can do to change our raw samples. Okay, let's go on to page 1. This page lets you select what sample you want to edit. So move the magic cursor arrow to the Select Copy field and then use the Control knob to dial up the sample. So let's dial up voice C1. This section also lets you copy a sample if you have enough memory, or delete. For now, we want to edit a sample. So now that we have dialed up voice C1, let's go on to the next page. This page determines what sound sources heard when playing. On monitor, you will hear only the sample chosen on page 1, played exactly as it was recorded, in reference to the exact sample point. If you choose a program that has the present sample in one of its key groups, see Edit Program, it will sound as if it was placed in that program, in reference to transposition, nominal pitch, filtering, etc. This page controls 3 different functions. Number 1, loudness, which lets you set overall volume of the sample, either plus 50 or minus 50 degrees. Number 2, nominal pitch, This section determines at what pitch the sample will be sounded. To lower the pitch, raise the nominal pitch. Number 3, fine pitch. This lets you fine-tune any of your samples that might have been recorded slightly out of pitch. Let's go to the next page. Pages 4 through 9 deal with a process known as looping. Since it takes a lot of memory to sustain a long, continuous sound, you can use looping technique and take a short 2-second sample and connect the end of the sound back to a point in the middle, much like splicing a tape loop. Page 4 simply gives you a choice of replay modes. One shot plays the sample at its original length. Looping lets you loop the end point of the sample to a point somewhere in the middle. Alternating plays the sample forward, then backward, then forward, then backward, in a continuous loop. Let's go with one shot for now. So enter the field and press number 1. Let's go to the next page, page 5. Page 5 deals with the time direction of the sample. Normal, number 1, lets you play the sample forward, but if you press reverse, number 2, we can turn the sample around and play it backwards. This is great for cymbals and special effects. It's cousin it. Next page. Page 6 tells you the exact start point of the sample in bits of information. So if you want to change the beginning of your sample, you can choose the exact bit or frame in the sample window. So press arrow cursor to move into the proper field. This will set the starting point in coarse or fine increments. It is not necessary to hit enter after setting these values. A great part of this feature is that you can hear immediately where the new start point is without committing to it. To change back to the original start point, go back to 0. Let's try it. Move the cursor into the coarse field and dial up to about 25,000 and play. 2, 3. So now we hear 2, 3, which means we've moved the sample starting point after 1. Okay, dial it back to 0. And we have our original sample back. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's go to the next page. This page uses the same procedure as page 6, only it deals with shortening the sample. So let's move into the proper field and dial it back to 75,000. And play. 1, 2. Now we only hear 1, 2. Let's dial it back up to 120,000, and we have our original sample intact. 1, 2, 3. Okay, before we move to the next page, which sets our loop point, let's go back to page 4 and select looping. Once this is done, we can move up to page 8. This page works only when page 4 is in looping or alternating mode. Press arrow cursor to move to the next field, which chooses the loop length in large increments. Pressing the arrow cursor again lets you choose the loop length in small increments. The loop is what is in between the starting and ending points, page 6 and 7. Note that the information in parentheses under the start point, end point, and loop length corresponds to the settings you use in these categories. Press arrow cursor again to get into the auto looping field. This is a computer guess as to what the loop length should be. Once you have determined your loop length, make a note of what it is and move the cursor over to the auto field. Pressing enter activates the computer guess of the loop length. This may be done over and over, so mark down the numbers that sound best. So let's dial in 3/4 of the total, or about 84,000, and check our loop. To fine-tune, simply move the cursor to fine-tune and adjust it. Then move the cursor over to the auto loop section and press enter and let the computer determine the exact loop point. Now play it. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. Dial or punch in page 9. Use the arrow cursor to move to the bandwidth field. This does exactly what it says. Resamples at 1/2 bandwidth and opens up more memory. So, for instance, if we sampled at 16,000 hertz, we could resample at 1/2 bandwidth and have 8,000 hertz. Okay, when you do this yourself, you want to keep a copy of the original on disk in case you don't like the new one, but we'll get into disk functions later. Press arrow cursor to move to the next field. After you've set a new start and end point, pressing Enter erases all data before and after the new points, again opening up more memory. Dial or punch in page 10. This is for splicing two samples together. The sample called up first is our first sample. Move the arrow cursor to the next field that selects the second sample. Now dial until you come to the one you want to use for sample number 2. Press arrow cursor again, then letter. Now name the new sample. Note, make sure that you have enough memory to make the new sample. Okay, let's go to page 11. This determines how long the crossfade time will be. This eases out the first sample as it eases in the second sample. The larger the number, the longer the fade. Now let's move to page 12. This is the order that the splice samples are played. Press the arrow cursor to move it to the next field. Number 1 plays the first sample, then the second. Number 2 plays the second sample, then the first. And number 3 plays them together. Remember to make sure you have enough memory to make the new sample. If you've absorbed the edit sample functions, let's go on to the edit program mode. This section, we will assign our various samples to different key groups to make a program. So, press the edit program button, and our first page will read. All right, as you probably noticed, this page is very similar to page 1 in the edit sample mode, and it operates in a similar manner. We can select, copy, rename, or delete any program. But first, we have to come up with a name for our program and then dial it in. Push the letter and dial in our program name. Let's call it numbers, like I already have. Hit enter, or go to the next page. Page 2 has 2 functions. Key loudness ranges from -50 to +50. What it does is increase the volume the higher you play on the keyboard. If you set it in the positive field, and decrease the volume the higher you play it in the negative mode. The positional crossfade on-off switch lets you create hard and soft samples out of your existing normal sample types. This will only work if you set the velocity switch threshold lower than 128 on page 4 of Edit Program, but we'll cover that later. Let's move on to page 3. Page 3 is where we add or delete the number of key groups we want to use. Since we have 3 samples, let's use 3 key groups. Press the arrow cursor button twice to move the magic arrow to the copy field. To copy, we press the plus or on button. To delete key groups, we press the minus or off button. Since the S900 automatically defaults to 1 key group, press the plus button once to get 2 key groups, and 1 more time to get 3 key groups. Now that we have 3 key groups, let's move to page 4. The velocity crossfade on-off function lets you use a previously recorded sample crossfade as a crossfade in the on position or just as a soft sample. Let's turn it on for now. The velocity switch threshold lets you create hard and soft samples out of existing samples. If you set it lower than 128 and also turn the positional crossfade on for your key groups in page 2, you'll get hard and soft samples. We'll come back to this section later. So move to page 5. Okay, page 5 is a section where we assign our samples to the respective key groups and set the ranges of those key groups. This is the only tricky part of the S900. I find it's actually very logical, and once you've done it a couple of times, it gets really easy. Press the cursor button once to move it into the key group field. Key group 3 should now be flashing. Using the control knob, dial up key group 1. Now press the arrow cursor again and move it to the soft sample field. Now use the control knob to dial up voice C1. Now instead of going on to the low key, high key field, I like to assign the rest of my key groups to their samples. So move the cursor back to key group and dial in key group 2. Move the cursor back to the soft sample field and dial in voice C2. Repeat these functions one more time and assign key group 3 to our soft and loud sample. Now we've assigned our 3 key groups to our 3 key samples. And as you dial through the key groups, you will see key group 1, voice C1, key group 2, voice C2, and key group 3, our soft, loud sample. Okay, now we have to set the low key, high key range. Before we go any further, let's take a look at this keyboard diagram. What this diagram shows us is various reference points in a keyboard scaling, such as middle C or C3, A440 or A3, the minimum 73 key sound of the S900, which is C0, the maximum range of the S900, which is C6, and all their corresponding MIDI note numbers. C3 is MIDI note 60, A3 is MIDI note 69, and C6 is MIDI note 96. In other words, every note on the keyboard is given a pitch number and a corresponding MIDI note number. This is a very useful thing to know by heart, but for now, use this diagram. Remember, we gave each sample a pitch number when we recorded it, so that we could tell at which pitch they were recorded. Now this is where that becomes very handy. We have a sample at pitch C1, another sample at pitch C2, another sample at pitch C3. And each of these are assigned to key groups 1 through 3 respectively. So starting at the assigned pitch numbers, let's set the range for each key group to be 11 notes, or almost a full octave. So the range of key group 1 would go from C1 or MIDI note number 36 to B1 or MIDI note 47. Key group 2 would be C2 or MIDI note 48 to B2 MIDI note 59. Key group 3 would be C3 or MIDI note 60 to C4 or MIDI note 72. This will give us a 3-octave range for our program. Now that we have figured that out, all we have to do is load it into the machine and we're home free. Okay, let's go back and dial up key group 1. Move the cursor to the low key field and dial in C1. Move to the high key field and dial in B1 47. All right, move to key group 2. The low key will dial in C2. And the high key will be B2. Or MIDI note 59. Move to key group 3. Our low key will be C3 or 60, and C4 will be our high key. Now we have just built our key groups and now have a basic program called numbers. So press the play button and we'll see the number 2 program is numbers, and it's flashing. Now let's play C1, C2, and C3, and we'll hear the 3 different samples. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And of course, soft. Okay. Finally, let's play a 3-octave scale. Not exactly Beethoven.
1,
4,
4, soft.
but a program just the same. There are still 11 pages left in edit program mode, but let's move on and come back to those later. Well, we've covered a lot of territory. We've still got a little way to go. In this next section, we'll be building on principles that we've covered already. So again, if you've got any reservations, go back and review. If not, on to MIDIville. Welcome to MIDIville. Once in MIDI mode, we have 5 pages of MIDI commands. Page 1. This is the command to assign your basic MIDI channel plus Omni on or off. Simply move the magic cursor arrow to the MIDI channel and then dial in 1 through 16, whichever MIDI channel that you'd like to use. Page 2 lets you dial up any channel key and velocity of a sample and play it without a keyboard using the playback trigger button. Choose various notes and play them back at different velocities. If you turn to page 3, you can see all the information of the last note played. Play the keyboard and you will see the actual MIDI key and its velocity level change as you play. Pretty neat, huh? Page 4. This does what it says. Lets you get your pitch wheel up or down, 12 semitones, or a whole octave. Okay, let's move to page 5. Page 5 allows you to switch control of the S900 from MIDI on number 1 to RS-232 computer port. Okay, next we can go on and set our baud rate. Use the magic cursor arrow to select your baud rate and then dial in your number. The baud rate is the speed of communication between computers. In this case, the S900 in a computer. Disk functions. The S900 is equipped with a very versatile disk drive. So if you've recovered from MIDI land, let's shift into disk drive. Once into disk drive mode, you have your choice of 8 disk drive commands. Page 1. This is the function used to load a complete disk into the S900. Page 2. Page 2 allows you to load from disk the individual program information with the corresponding samples. Page 3. Page 3 is for loading each sample individually. This function is used for creating your own performance disks from a number of factory disks. Page 4. This command allows you to save all the information from the S900 to disk. It will format the disk automatically if it hasn't been formatted already. Page 5. Page 5 lets you save to disk either the program information or the program and the corresponding samples. Once again, use the magic cursor arrow to make your selection. On to page 6. This command lets you save the samples to disk one at a time. Page 7. Page 7 is your disk erasure function, which lets you erase either individual samples or complete programs. Make your change with the magic cursor and press enter. On to page 8. Before saving any information to the 3.5-inch double-sided, double-density disk, it must be formatted by the S900. Simply press enter, and the S900 will erase any previous format data on the disk and print its own. Wait about 40 seconds and be sure to watch those little dots eat up all the stuff on the screen. When the disk is formatted, the disk light will go out and you'll be ready to save information from the S900 to disk. Okay, now that we've gone through the disk functions, let's try a practical exercise. Let's load some samples from the bass disc, then some samples from the piano disc, and make a piano and bass performance disc. Okay, first slip in the bass disc, which I've already done. Push the disk button and go to page 3. Now press the cursor button once so the B in bass is blinking. Now hit enter and the readout will say loading bass E1. Use the control knob and dial in bass C2. Press enter and the readout will say loading bass C2. You'll notice we've only used 31% of the memory. Now let's repeat the same procedure with the piano disc. Slip in the piano disc, push the disk function button, go to page 3, move the cursor over to the sample field, and let's dial in piano G2. Press enter. It'll load piano G2. Now let's dial in piano C3. Press enter again, and it's loading. Now let's dial in piano G3. Press enter, and it's loading piano G3 into the machine. We've now loaded 5 samples into the machine and only used 62% of the memory. So we still have some room for other samples. But let's make a performance program first. Okay, number 1, push the Edit Program button. Let's call this program Rhythm Section, like I already have. Go to page 3, the key group section. Okay, let's move our cursor to the copy field and press the on or plus button 4 times to make 5 key groups. Let's go to page 5 and assign the key groups. Here we go. Key group 1 should be bass E1, low key C1, high key B1. Key group 2 should be bass C2. The low key is C2 or MIDI note 48. Our high key is F sharp 2, or MIDI key 54. Key group 3 is our piano G2. The low key in this case would be G2. And the high key will be B2. Key group 4 will be piano C3. Low key C3. High key F sharp 3. And our 5th key group will be piano G3. The low key will be G3, MIDI key 67, and the high key will be C4, MIDI note 72. Okay, push the play button, and the readout should say, number 2, rhythm section. And we've got bass on the lower end of the keyboard and piano in the middle. Plus, we still have 38% left in the memory, enough to load in more samples. Now that you know how to load individual samples, you can build all sorts of new programs, and that's pretty slick. Now let me show you some more tricks to further edit any sample programs. How about positional crossfade with soft and loud samples? Positional crossfade is similar to velocity crossfade, but instead of blending one sound into each other on the same note, we get either a loud or a soft sample, depending on how hard we depress the key, like so. You don't have to record specific samples for this function. You can simply take any number of samples on an existing disc and turn them into hard soft samples. So I have a marimba vibe disc already loaded in. Okay, let's write a new program and take one sample from the marimba and one sample from the vibes and use the positional crossfade. Press Edit Program. Move the cursor to select, press the letter, and write in our new program, which I already have done. And we'll call it PX Fade, or Positional Crossfade. Let's go to page 2. Move the cursor to Positional Crossfade and press On. Move to the next page. Page 3. Move the cursor to Copy and Delete. We want to delete some key groups, so we'll press the Off button 3 times to delete 3 key groups. Okay, we have 1 key group left. Let's go to page 4. Move the cursor to the velocity switch threshold. Now, you can't create a loud sample unless the velocity switch threshold is less than 128. So let's dial the threshold switch down to about 80. Go to page 5. Assign our soft sample, key group 1, vibes. Low key, C3, MIDI key 60, high key is C5, MIDI note 84. Go to page 7. This is our loud sample field. Okay, we'll want to assign marimba C3. Note that the key group and range are already set. Okay, press Enter. Play the keyboard. Okay, now we have a marimba if I hit the key hard and the vibes if I hit the key soft. So. Okay. If you want to adjust the velocity switch, just go back to page 4 and adjust your velocity according to the way you like to play. Press the play button and we'll see the new program. Number 6, positional crossfade. There are a few more edit function programs that we should talk about. So let's go to page 5 of the edit program. Okay, this is our soft sample section again. So let's move to one more page, page 6, and here we have loudness. Pressing the arrow cursor once moves you into the key group field. Choose which key group you're going to be dealing with. Press the arrow cursor again. Okay. The loudness or volume works exactly like the volume setting in the edit sample section. Okay. Let's go to filtering. Pressing the arrow cursor at 99, no filtering occurs at all. As the filter number gets smaller, more highs are cut off. This is good for taking out hiss. Push the arrow cursor again, and you're in the transposition field. Each number raises or lowers the pitch by 1/2 step. Pressing the arrow cursor again puts you in the fine pitch field. This raises or lowers the pitch in small increments. 16 degrees equals 1/2 step. This is helpful for sounds that are slightly out of tune. Pages 7 and 8 are identical to page 5 and 6, except they deal with the allowed samples. Okay, let's move to page 9. Page 9 is your ADSR section. First of all, we have attack. Okay, we have it for each key group, so dial up the key group individually or set them all. Pressing the arrow cursor again puts you in the attack field. This determines how long it takes for the pitch to sound. At the 0, the sound plays immediately. The higher the number, the longer it takes for the note to sound. Let's move to decay, the next field. Okay, we're in the decay field. This determines how long it takes a sound to go from the highest level achieved in the attack phase to the sustain level, which will be set next. Hit the arrow cursor again, and you're in the sustain field. This determines the sound level for the time the key is held down. Let's go to release. Press the arrow cursor again to get into the release field. This determines how long it takes the note to die out after releasing the key. Page 10. This deals with velocity response, or how hard you hit the key. Loudness. In the loudness field, the higher the number and the harder you hit the key, the louder the sound will be. At 0, the loudness will always be the same. Filter. Pressing the arrow cursor again puts you in the filter field. At 0, no filtering will occur at all. The higher the number, 0 to 99, and the harder you play, the brighter the sound will be. Okay, let's go to attack. Press the arrow cursor again to get into the attack field. At 0, the attack will be constant, but as you increase the number from 0 to 99 and play harder, the attack will get more percussive. Release. Press the arrow cursor again to get the release field. At 0, the release times will all be the same. As you increase the number from 0 to 50, releasing the keys quickly causes a shorter release time. This brings us up to page 11. The pitch warp section. Okay, first of all, velocity. This causes a pitch change in the beginning of the sound, either up or down. Push the arrow cursor to get into the velocity field. The velocity doesn't work unless you have the attack offset on. The higher the number from 0 to 99, and the harder you play, the more warp there will be. Let's go to time. Press the arrow cursor to get to the time field. The higher the number, the longer the change will be. Attack offset. Press the arrow cursor. Attack offset. In the attack offset field, this is the total amount of change and the direction of it. At minus 50, the sound will come up from below the pitch to the real pitch. At plus 50, the sound will come down above the pitch into the real pitch. Let's go to page 12. This is our LFO section, depth rate. This adds low frequency oscillation or vibrato. The depth field determines the total amount of modulation. The rate field determines how fast the modulation is. The delay field determines how quickly the modulation starts after you hit it. And desync. The desync field determines if the waveform of the modulation starts at the same time or at different times for all the individual key groups. Let's go on to page 13. LFO depth. This sets the degree of aftertouch and the modulation wheel to apply the LFO, discussed on page 12. Both go from 0 to 99, with higher numbers giving more modulation. On to page 14, the key filter field. In the key filter field, the higher the number from 0 to 99 and the lower you play, the more high end is cut off. The constant pitch makes every note a C3. One shot turns your looping off or on. Let's go to page 15. This determines the MIDI channel for each key group. This is good for when you are using separate outputs in the back. You can give each key group a separate output and MIDI channel. For this, you would turn Omni mode off. In the offset field, set the MIDI channel one below where you want it to be. For example, if you want MIDI channel 1, put the offset on 0. And the next field will show you the exact channel, MIDI channel 1. Now, for MIDI channel 2, put the offset on 1, and the next field shows channel 2. Let's go to page 16. Page 16 determines which outputs the key groups will come out of. Set the key group in the key group field, and in the next field, tell it where to go. So 0 is the mix out, 9 is the left channel, 10 would be the right channel. Now, 1 through 8 is for the individual outputs. Okay, I've already inserted the rhythm section disc with some additions to our bass and piano. Now we have bass drum, snare drum, hi-hat, tom-toms, bass, guitar, here's our piano, and marimba. Okay, I can assign the bass drum to output 1, the snare drum to output 2, hi-hat and toms to output 3, bass to output 4, guitar to output 5, piano to output 6, and marimba to output 7. Now that I've set all the different samples to different MIDI channels and to individual outputs, I can use them with a sequencer and have a complete backup band. You should now have a good working knowledge of the Akai S900 sampler. To give you an idea of what you have at your disposal, the S900 has an impressive sampling frequency of 40K, plus a 12-bit linear system, which gives the sampler an incredible resolution of 4,096 waveform possibilities. All of this translates into outstanding accuracy. In addition to the great sound reproduction, the S900 has memory and storage capacity, which allows you to utilize these sounds to the fullest. At its maximum sampling frequency, it can sample for almost 12 seconds. Plus, we get velocity and positional crossfade, full ADSR, filter controls, LFO, aftertouch, and pitch warp. With the sampler's 8 individual outputs, plus a left-right mix, we can take the S900's 32 splits or sample points and assign them to different MIDI channels, and then assign them all to individual outputs. This makes the S900 a true multi-timbral instrument. Well, after all this talking about the S900, all I want to do is play it. But remember, if you have any questions, just rewind the video.
Rewind the video.